You think you are the player. You sit above the board. You reach down. You decide who advances and who is sacrificed, and you tell yourself the game belongs to you. But you were never the hand above the board. You were always the wood inside it. Tonight, you are going to live a single life as all 16 pieces, one at a time, and by the end, you will not be certain which one you were all along. So start where every life starts. Start in the front row. Start as a pawn. You open your eyes, and the world is one square wide. There are 7 others beside you, identical, shoulder to shoulder, facing a war no one asked if you wanted to fight. You can only move forward. You can never go back. There is no retreat written into you, no clause that lets you undo a single step. And the instant you stop being useful, you are the first thing anyone is willing to lose. To be a pawn is to be expendable. That is the part that stings. And it is the part most people spend their whole lives trying to outrun. But your body already knows exactly where it stands in the line, and it has always known, long before your mind was willing to admit it. In the 1960s, an epidemiologist named Michael Marmot began following thousands of British civil servants in what became the Whitehall studies. Everyone had a desk, everyone had a salary. None of them were poor, and none of them were starving. And yet the men at the bottom of the office hierarchy died younger than the men at the top. And they died younger by a margin that money and diet and smoking could not explain. The lower your rank, the higher your risk. Rank alone was quietly carving years off their lives. So the pawn's exhaustion is not in your head. It is in your blood pressure, your cortisol, the slow arithmetic of a body that knows it is standing in the front row. Does that mean the pawn is doomed? No. Because the pawn carries a secret no other piece can claim. The pawn is the only piece that can become anything, reach the far edge of the board, survive every step of that war, and the pawn transforms into a knight, a rook, a bishop, even a queen. The psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying why some people keep growing while others stay frozen, and she found the difference often comes down to a single belief. Whether you think who you are is fixed, or whether you think it is still being written. The pawn is the purest version of that belief. Small, forward only, unfinished on purpose. So you push forward, one square at a time, and one day you cross the line, and the board hands you a new shape. Now you are a knight, and the first thing you notice is that you do not move like anyone else. Every other piece travels in straight lines. You do not. You leap. You bend. You are the only piece on the board that can jump clean over the heads of the ones in front of you, landing somewhere no straight path could ever reach. The world will spend years trying to teach you to march in a tidy row like everyone else. The knight is simply what happens when you quietly refuse. There is a name for this. The researcher J.P. Guilford called it divergent thinking, the ability to look at one problem and find not the single correct path, but the strange diagonal one that no one else considered. Straight line thinking solves the problem in front of you. The knight's mind finds the move that was never on the board at all. And it pays a price for that, because the leper is always the one who looks reckless right up until the moment it works. Which kind of thinker have you been rewarded for being? Then the board turns again, and you wake up as a bishop. And here, you learn the cruelest rule of all. You are fast. You can cross the entire board in a single breath, but you are locked from your very first move to one color of square, and you will die on that color, having never once touched the other half of the world. The light-squared bishop never stands where the dark-squared bishop stands. You were assigned your half before you made a single choice. This is the piece that feels the most like a real life, because you too were handed a color you did not choose, a country, a body, a family, a starting square, and you were told to make your entire journey on it. The constraint is not the tragedy here. The constraint is the exact shape of your particular mastery. A bishop that spends its life mourning the squares it can never reach is a wasted bishop. A bishop that learns its single diagonal completely, that owns every inch of the half it was given, becomes one of the most dangerous pieces alive. So what have you been calling a cage that was actually a craft? Then the game slows down, and you become a rook. For most of your life, nobody thinks about you. You sit in the corner, square, heavy, unglamorous, while the knights leap and the bishop slices across the board and the queen dazzles, and the whole game seems to forget you exist at all. So you wait, and you wait. You watch the flashier pieces win the early attention and burn through the opening, and a quiet voice tells you that the important moves have already happened without you. That voice is lying. Because the endgame arrives, the pieces thin out, the board empties, and suddenly the entire game depends on you. The two squares no one defended are now yours to rule. The rook is the late bloomer, the one whose true hour comes long after everyone, including the rook itself, assumed the story was already over. Have you ever mistaken a slow beginning for a small life? And then it happens. The board lifts you up, and you become the queen. Now there is no square you cannot reach. Forward, backward, sideways, diagonal, across the whole field in a single sweeping move. You are the most powerful piece in the game, and for the first time you understand what it feels like to be unstoppable. But power, you discover almost immediately, comes with a cost written in very small print. The psychologist Dashe Keltner has spent his career studying what power actually does to the people who hold it, and he named his central finding the power paradox. The very traits that earn you power in the first place, the attention to others, the empathy, the restraint, are often the first things that power quietly erodes once you have it. And there is a second cost, one every chess player learns young. The queen is the most powerful piece, which is exactly what makes her the most hunted. The moment you rise, every eye on the board turns towards you. Every plan now bends around your removal. Is that freedom you are feeling? Or is it a target painted across your back? And then, at last, the board sets you down one final time, and you become the king. You expect this to feel like the summit. It does not. The whole game exists to keep you alive. Every piece will throw itself into the fire to protect you, and yet you can barely move. One square. In any direction, yes, but only ever one square. Slow and small and shuffling. While the war that decides your entire fate is fought by everyone except you. You hold the highest stakes on the board, and almost no power to change them. There is a study that lives inside this exact feeling. In the 1970s, the psychologists Ellen Langer and Judith Rodin walked into a nursing home and gave one group of residents a small handful of control, a plant to care for, a few real choices to make for themselves. The other group had everything done for them, kindly, completely. 18 months later, the residents who had been given that sense of control were measurably healthier, more alert, more engaged, and more of them were simply still alive. Not because they had more power, because they had more agency. The king is the photographic negative of that finding. All the protection in the world, and almost no control over his own fate. So which would you truly rather be? The pawn who can only move forward, or the king who can barely move at all? Now look closely, because here is the twist the whole board has been hiding from you. Watch how the king moves, one square at a time. Slow, forward, back, to the side, but always only one square. And then remember how you began. A pawn, one square at a time. Slow, forward. The most powerful piece and the most expendable piece move almost exactly the same way. The entire journey, pawn to knight, to bishop, to rook, to queen to king. And you end your life stepping one square at a time, precisely as you started it. The board promised you transformation, and it delivered. Completely. But the first step and the last step are the same size. So here is the part nobody tells you while you are still staring down at the board, convinced you are the one holding all the pieces. You are not one of them. You are all of them. Right now, today, you are a pawn in certain rooms, standing at the bottom of a hierarchy you did not design, your body quietly keeping Marmot's score whether you notice it or not. You are a knight in others, the one who thinks sideways, who leaps when everyone else marches in line. You are a bishop, running hard along the one diagonal you were handed at birth. You are a rook still waiting for an endgame that has not arrived. You are a queen to the people who depend on your power, and a king to someone who would give anything to keep you safe. You move as every piece, every single day, and you almost never catch the exact moment you change shape. And the hand above the board, the one you were so certain was yours? It was never deciding your moves. It was only ever learning the game by watching you make them. You thought you were the player. You were every piece on the board. And the only thing that was ever truly above it, watching, learning, becoming something across all 16 of your lives at once, was you.